welcome back after this little infomercial kind of thing. It's even more than that. It's really showing what you're all achieving here. Thanks for sticking with us. We've got Sable with us, who is going to run Spyro Reignited Trilogy, Spyro 1, 80 Dragons. Welcome to take it away and give us a good time. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much. Hi everybody! Thanks for joining. So this is, as you probably can tell, Spyro Reignited Trilogy. This is Spyro 1, but the remaster. So before we get started here, let me just clear this save file. And timing is going to start as soon as I select this profile for Spyro 1, so I'll give you a countdown. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So hello everyone, and welcome to Spyro. You can see up in the top left corner, we've also got Morty, my blue-tongued skink. He's a little lizard. So he will be joining us for the extent of this run, because he is my stream cam. Alright, so as we get started, this is going to be 80 dragons. There are only 80 dragons in the game, so essentially this is the 100% category for dragons. You just saw eggs, which is a different collectible from a different Spyro game. Dragons just happens to be, you know, what the collectibles are for this game. So as we go through here, you know, we're going to be taking a path essentially just from dragon to dragon. And that seems simple, but in actuality there's a lot of other stuff kind of going on in the background that we need to keep in mind. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to when it's going to matter. But for now, let's just focus on getting dragons. And kind of low-key keep in mind, I suppose, that we do have, you know, all these other collectibles that we can get. We have dragon eggs, we have gems, because this is, you know, a collectible type game. But we don't actually need any gems. And why that is and how that will affect us, I will explain a little bit later.
Morty's looking all excited too.
Morty loves to watch TV, so if I'm doing this, he's probably, you know, watching, peeking out.
We got a quick little donation by Bill, $25. Thank you, Bill. No message, but welcome anyway.
Nice. Thank you, Bill. So one of the things that you're going to be seeing me do is what I just did there, which is exiting the level by pulling up the start menu. There is actually a portal at the end of every level that you can hop through, and it'll take you out, but why run to the portal when you can just, you know, use the start menu? And so if you use the start menu to exit the level, as you can see, it pops you back out, like in the place that you entered, right in front of the portal. If we choose to do that a little bit differently, if we choose to go in the guidebook, which is kind of like a compendium of all the levels in the game that you visited, and we choose to go back to the home world using the guidebook, that still gets us out of the level, but it'll take us to a slightly different place. And this level, Town Square, is going to be the first place where we use the guidebook instead of exiting level, because it will take us closer to the next place that we want to be. The guidebook will take us to where the balloonist, who you haven't met yet, would take us if he were taking us to the home world. We'll meet the balloonist shortly. And he's actually very important. He's probably the single most important part of this run. Got a little exploit here to stand on thin air, because that fairy, for some reason, creates a hitbox when she appears. And so we can stand on that to hop over this wall. And so we're out of the world via the guidebook this time, and as you'll see, we're not going to come out in front of the portal, we're going to come out basically in the center of the home world, which is a lot closer to the next level that we want to go to. Now this is basically the only level where those return home portals that I was talking about are actually important, because the world boss, whose name is Toasty, doesn't open. He's like hidden behind a closed dragon head. His portal doesn't open until you go through one return home portal. So we have our choice of, you know, which level we want to do that in, and it just so happens that Dark Hollow has a dragon right in front of the return home portal, and so we choose this level. And kind of as an aside as well, if you have never played this remaster and you're thinking about it, I highly recommend it. They did an excellent job with making this. It was definitely made with a lot of attention and love, and you can tell. It feels great to control even for casual players. It's just very fun. I've never learned the 100% category for this game because I still play it casually. Like, I want to play it casually and not know where things are because it's just that much fun. So there's our return home portal. That will trigger the boss to open. And now that the boss is open, he will be the final level that we have to go to in this world. There is a flight level, to be fair, but we don't do flights in 80 Dragons because flights are essentially just obstacle courses that get you gems, and we don't need gems. So this dragon here is just going to be like, oh, good job, you've opened the boss. Thanks, buddy. Unfortunately, we're not really going to see very much of Toasty because all of the dragons are in front of the bosses that they correspond to, because dragons are save points, so it's letting you save before the boss. So we won't get to see much of Toasty, which is kind of unfortunate because he's actually just 3 sheep in a trench coat. And so again, we guidebook out because that's just a little bit faster than exiting. Other than the remaster, what's your favorite Spyro game? Just the original Spyro 1. I'm a sucker for Spyro 1 in any of its forms. Although to be fair, there was that one Spyro game.
Are you ready to go?
It was Dawn of the Dragon? Dawn of Fire? Age of... something fancy sounded like that, where Spyro could fly like indefinitely. And it was still in like the Elijah Wood voicing Spyro era. I liked that game as well. And where there'll be a category for watching every dragon cutscene. The dragon cutscenes are awesome. They did such a good job. Every dragon is unique. And every dragon has like different voices. It used to be in the original Spyro 1 that there were basically like 5 dragon models or something, and then 2 guys who voiced all 80 dragons. So as we go through this world, we're going to start to see one collectible that we do care about, which is dragon eggs. They're little pink eggs carried by speedy blue thieves. Technically, we don't need the dragon eggs, but we're going to get them because at best, you know, don't have to worry about soft locking the game, and at worst, you lose maybe like 10 seconds. So it's worth it to get the dragon eggs instead of doing the glitch that we're going to already be doing a couple times. Which is fairly risky. So we'll be getting those dragon eggs. We're going to need 5 of them, because each balloonist, you saw me speak to the balloonist, he's the guy who put me in the hot air balloon and moved me over here to this new world. Each balloonist has a different requirement for what they need in order to take you to the next world. Because they care about the dragon realms, and they're like, hey, you know, I'm not going to take you if you haven't helped some people, if you haven't tried to fix everything that the big bad boss, Nasty Nork, sort of messed up. So the first balloonist wanted us to get 10 dragons, which is very easy because we need all the dragons anyway. This next balloonist is going to want 1200 gems. This is a pretty common jump to have to do more than once. There we go. So the next balloonist for this world is going to want 1200 gems. The balloonist after that is going to want those 5 dragon eggs, so we're going to start collecting those now. After that, the balloonist is going to want 50 dragons. And finally, the last balloonist will want 6,000 gems. In order to avoid having to get those gems, because getting 6,000 gems takes a long time, we're going to be doing a glitch involving the balloonist. I'll explain it when we get closer. But for now, you know, we're just picking up those dragon eggs because those are going to be things that we need later. What species is the cutie lizard? He is a skink. A blue-tongue skink, specifically. So his tongue is very, very blue, about as blue as a blueberry. And I guess people think that it's blue because giraffes have blue tongues too, to prevent them from getting sunburned. So I think it's for the same reason. So Morty will be wandering around as we, you know, do this run, and every now and then I'll pop the camera and follow him a little bit. Because what kind of speedrunner would I be if I couldn't speedrun and manage a camera at the same time that's following the lizard? Have I lost runs to trying to follow Morty on cam? Absolutely. And his name isn't actually Morty, by the way. It's Artorias from Dark Souls. But he's basically a sausage with legs, so he doesn't quite live up to the Artorias name. So we call him Morty. Again, we've got a flight level over to the right that we're not going to do, because we don't need gems. And these thieves are the ones carrying the eggs. You'll see that every time I get a thief, I try to do it while I'm in the air, while I'm like falling down. Because for some reason the game has this idea that if you have downward momentum, when you hit a thief, you don't have to watch the little cutscene where they give you the egg. So we're skipping cutscenes by doing that. Dr. Shemp is the boss of this world. Again, not really going to see very much of Dr. Shemp. We will get to see Blowhard later. That's one boss that we will get a chance to hang out with. But Dr. Shemp's dragon is right in front of him, so we don't need to do anything. We just wave, say hello, and then say goodbye. There he is up there. Alright, so let me clear my throat because this is going to be a doozy. As we come out of this level, let me start telling you about how this glitch is going to work. The premise of it is that you see that this balloon takes us from world to world, right? But we have to do the things that the balloonist says that we need to do, you know, collect so many dragons or so many gems or whatever, or else he won't take us. However, the developers, probably, you know, for the purposes of playtesting or whatever, have their own little tool, their own little balloon, that lets them go wherever they want without doing any of those things. The good news for us is that that tool is located out of bounds in this world, and we can actually find it. So I need to get Spyro out of bounds and fall into this developer's balloon, because then I can go anywhere without fulfilling the balloonist requirements. In order to do that, I'm going to rely on the fairies that are popping up from these dragons as I free them. The fairies are gonna let me talk to them even when I'm not near them if I play my cards right. If I glide away with their text box open and then, you know, close their text box before I hit the ground, in a very specific configuration, I'll be able to take that fairy with me anywhere. So I can walk way away from the dragon, and the fairy will still think that I'm right there. That's important because when Spyro's talking to a fairy, the game thinks that you are controlling Spyro. Because why wouldn't you be, right? You just freed a dragon. You're the player, you've moved Spyro there. And that's great, because if we can control Spyro inside the balloon that the balloonist is, you know, trying to take us between worlds in, we can actually charge out of that balloon, and that will let us get to that developer's tool. So, in summary, talk to the dragon, a very specific dragon, glide away from the fairy to trick the game into letting us talk to the fairy anywhere, and gain control of Spyro when we do. Go talk to the balloonist, gain control of Spyro in the balloon, charge out of bounds, and land in this developer's tool. It sounds complicated, but I promise it'll make more sense when we actually do it. So Magnus here is going to be the one that helps us get out of bounds. I'm going to hang around and talk to this fairy.
Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro.
And so now you see, even if I run all the way over here,
Hi,
bam,
Spyro.
still talk to the fairy. She's with me. That's called fairy storage.
Baby.
So I'm going to talk to this balloonist. We don't have the 1200 gems that we need to go to the next world. So instead I'm going to choose to go to Artisans. And then I'm going to gain control of Spyro by talking to the fairy. Charge out of the balloon, because I can control Spyro now. And that box is the dev tool. So I gotta get in there. And I did. But it's not over yet. The first balloon is still trying to take us to Artisans. And I want to go to Nasties. So we're coming in sideways. The game is going to be trying to load Artisans and Nasties at the same time. That's why it's freaking out. Because it's trying to take us to both of those places. If I take a death here, the game will kind of forget that it's, you know, taking us to Artisans. It's like, okay, that part's done. It plays the beginning cutscene because it doesn't know what's happening. And then we're in Artisans World. But if we quit the game from Artisans, it will move on to the next command that we gave it, which was to go to Nasty's World. Nasty's World had a 6,000 gem requirement, and we just skipped it.
Nasty's ancient history now. You?
You're in
what's in
Nasty's
there?
world now,
I believe
Spyro.
this is
and you are the
Nasty's
dragon
treasure
that must
hoard.
defeat him.
But the gate
Bring
will
him
only
on.
open
I'm
if you
ready.
have found
Reach
everything in
the
the
exit
Dragon
in
Kingdom.
each of
Come
Nasty's
back
lands.
when you have
Then
reached
you can challenge the
100%.
Nork himself.
So nothing is really loaded correctly in this world, right? All of those portals were supposed to have dragon heads that were closed, preventing us from getting in there. There certainly were not supposed to be 2 dragons. But it didn't load everything correctly. And the reason is because the game is like, hey, you're supposed to have 6,000 gems. What are you doing here? I'm not ready for this. And so since it's not ready, it doesn't know what to load. So it loads like this is the bare minimum. One of those dragons is only supposed to appear after you defeat the final boss. But since it doesn't know, you know, whether you defeated the final boss because it's confused, it's like, you know, I guess I'll put in both because I'm not sure. And you hop into these portals before they have, you know, all of their textures loaded, and you're able to get in before they close. It's very important that I guidebook out there instead of exiting the level, because at this point the game has caught up with me. So everything's going to be loaded in. You're going to see a closed dragon head in the place where I just was. So if I would have exited, I would have glided out into that dragon head, and it would have been closed, and I would have gotten trapped. So we basically just glitched ourselves into the final world of the game that required 6,000 gems for us to get here by going out of bounds. And we're actually going to do that glitch one more time to skip the 1,200 gem requirement for Peacekeepers. I did see someone ask earlier, you know, does this improve the any percent time? For sure. There's actually a donation incentive for any percent after this run, if you're interested. But yes, it dramatically shaves down the any percent time, and we would use that glitch again to essentially do kind of what I just did. Slightly different, but the same premise. And any percent in that case takes about 8 minutes. But obviously, you know, we get to see different things because any percent will fight Nasty Nork. And this does not even encounter Nasty Nork because he doesn't have a dragon, so we don't care. Get squished by this guy. Bam. Okay, so that's Nasty's world done. We never have to go there again. And we're heading back to Ice Cavern for the purpose of coming out to Magnus, that dragon that we got the fairy storage off of the first time, and doing fairy storage again. So we're going to come out, we're going to do the same thing that we just did, except instead of going to Nasty's, we're going to go to Magic Crafters. Magic Crafters was locked by 1200 gem requirement. We don't have 1200 gems because who has time for that?
Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro.
So there's our fairy storage.
I'm on, Spyro.
We're gaining control of Spyro here. The fluttering here is very intentional to make sure that I get down here at the right time. And I do need to be careful about my input here. I'm actually going to stop talking. Because if I don't do it within a certain number of frames, I'll soft lock the game. In a variety of ways, depends on what frame I hit it on. So we're loading Magic Crafters, we're loading Artisans, both at the same time. And just like with Nasty's world, once we come into Magic Crafters, it won't be loaded because it is not ready for us to be here. So no enemies. The egg thief, unfortunately, is also not here because we do still need eggs. So we'll have to get that thief from a different place. He would be standing right here. Thankfully, the dragon is still here. But all of this would normally be just full of enemies and gems. But they're not. By the time we come out of this level, the game will be caught up and things will look normal again.
We got 2 little donations if I have the time.
Sure thing.
Quo is donating $10, and all it says is lizard emoji. And Anonymous with hashtag Dolt for Mort, $10. So everybody's appreciating the little guy.
Nice. Thank you. I'm glad that he can bring joy to everybody because he is just the best little guy. I'm actually going to leave this dragon to play for a little while. Excuse you. Because the concept of this category, and essentially any Spyro Reignited category, is that we care about real time, or not. Let me try again. We don't care about real time, we care about in-game time. Because we can see in-game time in the guidebook, which I have been using trying to teleport around every now and then. So in-game time is what these categories are timed on, not real time. Forget what I said at the beginning. So whenever possible, we want to try to reduce in-game time, regardless of how long that takes in real time. And dragons playing will pause the in-game timer. Magic Crafters is a world that's all about cycles, so sometimes I will let a dragon play to pause the in-game timer, but let the cycles continue in the background so that they're more favorable to me and I can finish the level faster without spending any in-game time. And so that's why I let that dragon play, for the sake of, you know, making sure that that wall was going to come down at the right time. You can see that I didn't quite have enough downward momentum for that thief, and so it forced me to watch the cutscene. I appreciate both Do It for Mort and Dolt Mort. Mort is a little bit of a dolt sometimes. He's not smart. Like, I'm not gonna lie. He's not the smartest, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but we love him. I have a theory that Morty and the rest of the reptiles I own kind of have to determine whose turn it is to use the single brain cell in the house. And it's not usually Morty's turn. So we're almost to the 5 dragon eggs that we need. Technically, there's a way to do it faster than we're going to. Because, let's be real, the fastest way to do it is really boring. And I don't want to. So, I'd rather show you all fun things to do than keep you stuck in menus for 5 minutes. But the premise is, you know, for the world record time, which I think is 1939, I can't remember, 1939 or 1936, that thief that didn't appear at the beginning of Magic Crafters when we, you know, first came in, is really easy to get, and he's really fast. And he will appear now that we've gone through, you know, levels and the game is caught up. So by doing a ton of menuing, we can go back, grab that thief, you know, load back into a world that we've already been in, and finish whatever world it is we choose to load into. The problem with that is that it's like 90% loading screens, and that's boring. It does save time, because again, the premise of in-game time means that you're not spending in-game time when you're doing all of this menuing. But it's not as much fun, and I want to have fun, so here we are, doing the other method. Which honestly was the method to do for more than a year. So you can also check out these supercharges. The flame around Spyro's feet will change a little bit depending on how many supercharges he's zoomed across. That's going to be important later when we start to consider things like how fast we need to be going to make it to a certain platform. Okay, so this is the thief we're going to get instead of that one that I was just talking about. And he's slowly going to get away. We got him. I don't have Sparks though, which is kind of important. Sparks is my health bar. He's the little dragonfly that was following me. If I get hit enough, he'll go away. He's currently gone. And if I get hit when I don't have him, uh-oh, 666. If I get hit when I don't have him, I will die. Oh no, and we're going into Blowhard. One of the hardest levels with no sparks. We can do it. No biggie. Maybe a little biggie. We can do it, though. The green wizards that are in this world, and specifically the ones in Blowhard, are arguably the hardest enemies in Spyro 1. They have really good aim from a really long distance away. I just need to not get hit. There was Blowhard, the boss. Not gonna lie, little surprised that I actually made it through that. without taking a hit. But hey, we've switched from 666 to 711, one of the best convenience stores. I'm liking that gem count a lot more.
Would you like to go?
Another thing to keep in mind, you saw me hit, you know, one of those little goats. Maybe it was a sheep, I don't quite remember. At the beginning of the level or at the end of the level, to pop out a butterfly that Sparks just ate, and so I got my green sparks back. I am intentionally running through those and getting butterflies, because every 10th butterfly that you get will be an extra life butterfly. And that extra life butterfly will heal Sparks from any color. Normally butterflies only heal him by 1 level, but even if Sparks is gone and you get an extra life butterfly, he'll go all the way back up to yellow. And that's important because this world is really hard. Beastmakers as a whole is really hard. And so we try to plan it so that that 10th fodder animal that pops the butterfly happens during one of the hardest levels, either Treetops or Misty Bog. Because then we'll probably need a heal, and we'll get that full heal. What's your favorite world and level in Spyro 1? My favorite world in concept is Dreamweavers. I like the concept of dragons that, you know, make dreams. But my favorite world in practice is Peacekeepers, because I like the design of the dragons. Favorite level? Honestly, I would say... okay. I would say, even though it isn't in this run, Wild Flight is probably my favorite level. Which is gonna shock a lot of people, because most people hate the flight levels. But I'm also a flight level individual runner, so I kind of am biased a little bit. Wild Flight is down that portal. Unfortunately, we won't get to do it. Because again, we don't need gems. We've already passed through both of the worlds that required gems, so... So here's Misty Bog. Almost inarguably the hardest level of any Spyro 1 speedrun. We're actually going to do this in 2 parts because it's kind of shaped like a Y. And that's awkward for navigating, you know, like backtracking and doing all that. So instead, we're going to do essentially 1 branch of the Y, leave the level, and then we're going to end the run by coming back to Misty and doing the other branch. It's important for me to get that butterfly because I'm going to take an intentional damage to cross here. This was not in the original Spyro, they just happened to add that little rock. And that lets us skip right to the end. So we'll pick up 2 dragons now, and then just kind of hop out and pick up the rest later. So, Treetops. If you've ever played Spyro, either this one or... I missed that chicken. Or the original, you probably remember Treetops as being very confusing, which is fair. It is. There's a dragon named Jed, way out in the middle of nowhere. And casually, how you're supposed to get him is you're supposed to charge down to supercharge, and then, you know, run through the level and keep finding supercharge platforms to make you go faster and faster until you can finally make the really long jump to him. And it's very confusing, like, finding all of those platforms. Which is why I brought up earlier that, you know, sometimes Spyro needs 2 levels of supercharge in order to do something. He can't just do it off of 1. But we're not going to do that because of course it takes time to just run around in circles. So instead, I'm going to pick up Supercharge from this Supercharge ramp that's right here. Kill my momentum on that house, just enough to make that turn. And we'll be able to hop basically from the beginning of the Supercharge puzzle straight to the end. And here's Jed. And that is called the Jed Jump. Never in my life have I charged through that thief. That'll never happen again. So we just essentially, you know, majorly simplify the Jed Jump. And this idea of supercharging and very lightly tapping a piece of the environment to slow down the supercharge is important. Not only did that let us turn and do that, you know, that really sharp turn down onto that platform, where otherwise the supercharge would have carried us too far and we would have missed it, but later on, I'm actually gonna, one of the other hardest tricks in the run, I'm going to charge down to supercharge and just straight 180 and go backwards up a supercharge while keeping the supercharge. And that same principle of slowing yourself down by tapping something so that you can turn very sharply during a supercharge is going to be important at that point. You'll also see that I'm just straight up ramming Spyro's face right into all of these steps. Bonking is the fastest way to go upstairs. Because when Spyro flies into something, he'll hit his face on it and then he'll fall down. And in the middle of that fall, before you hit the ground, you can actually jump again. So bonking and jumping in midair is faster than having Spyro take the steps one by one.
Are you ready to go?
And so we're off to Dreamweavers. This balloonist wanted 50 dragons, which is super easy because we need all the dragons. And Dreamweavers is going to be the last world. Technically Nasty's is the last world, but we've already done it because we glitched into it, you know, with the balloonist skip. Which does bring me to another point. If you're interested in running this game, we're all very friendly. By all means, you know, reach out to us. If you like 80 dragons, the PC and console versions, I'm running on console, are a little bit different, but you do get to do that balloonist skip no matter what. So that's exciting. If that balloonist skip intimidates you, then, you know, you certainly don't have to do 80 dragons or any percent, which also requires that. You can do any percent NBS. NBS stands for no balloonist skip. So you don't have to worry about that glitch. If you are interested in running 80 dragons or any percent by using these balloonist skips, if you're running on console, be aware that you need to purchase a Spyro disc that's copyright 2018. If you buy ones that are later than that, they're already patched forward to 1.3 and the trick no longer works. This magical fairy kiss here will give us fire that can flame through anything. Normally Spyro's flame does not penetrate metal, but because Spyro has a thing for fairies, his fire gets extra hot and we get to flame through these metal doors, which is great because then we don't have to supercharge or do any sort of other tricks to get through them as long as we are speedy. So up here is that supercharge trick I was talking about. Boy, I can't clear my throat. I'm going to double back on the supercharge. I'm just going to go straight backwards. Whew. Nice. First try. Going straight backwards prevents us from having to do essentially a really complicated puzzle where you have to supercharge and respond very quickly to going like around corners and stuff and go through multiple metal doors by supercharging through them. in order to get to the same place that we're just standing here. And then you would have to go backwards, get the supercharge again, zoom through this little maze, come off of a platform, bounce off of another platform, and then get to where we were just standing. Or we could just go backwards and do none of that. You'll also notice that once again I exited via guidebook instead of exit level, because it took us back to the beginning of the world instead of outside of the portal. If we were outside of the portal, we would have had to ride a bunch of whirlwinds to get back to where we were just standing, and those whirlwinds cost about 15 seconds. This level is easy in theory, difficult in practice. It's easy in theory because it's a straight line. There really are no choices about where to go, you just walk forward. It's difficult in practice because these jesters, also called fools, will turn these dogs into big dogs if their lantern goes out. So, if you get eaten by those dogs, it's a huge time loss.
Thank you for releasing me.
And so you can see I let that dragon play, again, to let cycling continue in the background, so that they wouldn't be big red dogs by the time I got to them. But yeah, getting eaten by those big red dogs is worst case scenario. They take a long time to munch you. So we're getting up there. Remember that our goal is 80 dragons and we are currently at 70. So we're almost there. Because it doesn't take any extra time, like in-game time, I'm actually going to let my favorite dragon play. We've been skipping them so far, but he's just really cool. And he's been my favorite dragon ever since the original Spyro one, although for different reasons. When I was a kid, he was my favorite dragon because I thought that he was like super deep and super edgy. But here he is. His name is Latif.
Welcome to the Dreamweavers, young one. While chasing Nasty's minions in this world, you must expect the unexpected and prepare for what is not there.
I thought that was like the coolest thing when I was 7 or whatever. I was like, oh, expect the unexpected, prepare for what's not there. That's so wise. And I was like super excited about it. So he was my favorite dragon for sure. Now he's my favorite dragon because they did an awesome job with his design and he looks really cool. But 7-year-old me was trying to be edgy.
And weren't we all? He's just dishing out the wisdom and growing with us. With the end of the run coming up, I just want to dish out a quick reminder. It's a good time to get in the donations for the 80% exhibition. We're halfway there with 40 out of the $80.
That was both a woohoo and an oh no I almost died. All at the same time. Multitasking, gotta speedrun those sounds.
Even Mort is up on the move with all the excitement.
Unfortunately, we do have to wait for these fairies. They can sometimes kind of take their sweet time. Earlier on, the very first fairy whirlwind that we did, It does appear that you can make it across, and like technically Spyro has enough height to make it across, but there's an invisible wall that prevents us from going that way, which is why I did not just jump across as soon as I got to that part. The fairies will drop the invisible wall for you, so you do have to wait for them. I often try to finish these runs with less than 1,000 gems, just to be cheeky, but I was kind of being a little extra cheeky in different ways during this run, so we have more than 1,000. It doesn't matter, it's just literally a self-imposed fun thing, but it kind of feels good, right? Because the game mandates, technically, that you have at least 1,200 gems in order to progress, and I want to finish with less than that, just to show that I can. So Jacques is the boss of this world. He is the only boss to have 2 dragons in his... I was gonna say enclosure. Boy, I spend too much time with reptiles. In his level. And he is, honestly, one of the harder bosses. But, again, not gonna fight him. These fools are on timers that power these platforms, which is why I'm going, out of my way to hit them. I need them to do their little cycle thing that they're doing here. To get me over to this dragon. Or, we can fall. We've got time. It's whatever. We'll go this way. Or, we can fall again. That's just the best. I would like you all to notice the beautiful colors that are underneath the world in this level. Would hate for you to miss out on those. And 1 stacked cake, because why not? I am gonna get this extra life though. Not that we really truly need it, but just to be safe. Gotta keep it exciting. It wouldn't be exciting if I wasn't at some point at 0 lives, right? So we're going back to Misty Bog. We need 2 dragons. They're both in here. Truth be told, the reason that I took the extra life is because we are going to go... I'm actually going to take this one too. We are going to go into, inarguably, the hardest room in the game. That's where this speedrun ends. There are 10 enemies in a very small room. We are almost guaranteed to get hit. But timing is going to stop as soon as I free this 80th dragon and then pull up my menu. So I'll call timing for you, but it's going to be here in just a couple seconds. Yeah, there was 1 hit, that's fine. Alright, so timing will stop now. And we got a 2055, you can see on the top right hand corner up there. That's pretty decent. The second place used to be 2056, so I'm happy with that. That's pretty nice, especially because we didn't do all of that menuing stuff, like I said, that would have saved a lot more time. Because that's boring. So we had a great run, I think. I hope that you all enjoyed it. And then if we've met the any percent incentive, I can start setting up for that. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining. And thank you for showering Morty in praises. I'm sure that he will be very happy.
And we actually did meet the any percent exhibition incentive.
All right.
With a last minute $40 Mort snipe from Odin. Thank you very much. Now we'll get to see more of this beauty.
Awesome. Thank you everybody for donating to meet that.
Take it away again and show us, as I'm being told, Dragon Daddy.
So do we want to okay, I see that the timer has reset, so I'll give you another countdown I will get ready to go. Timer will start in 3, 2, 1, go. Here's any percent, y'all! How exciting. Same principle as you were just watching in 80 Dragons. I know that there might be people here who didn't get to see those glitches if they came in a little bit afterwards, so I will explain them again. But the premise is, you know, we need 6,000 gems in order to get to Nasty Nork's world. The end of this run happens when we flame Nasty Nork, so we do actually have to fight the final boss this time. And we need those 6,000 gems to get into Nasty's world. We're not going to collect 6,000 gems because I can tell you from running any percent no balloonist gift that takes about an hour. So instead, we're going to glitch ourselves into this developer's tool that will let us choose whatever world we want to go to without fulfilling the requirements. And we'll do that in the next world because that happens to be where the developer's tool is, out of bounds. So in the meantime, the only thing that we're doing is getting 10 dragons because that is what we have to do to leave this world. We are going to have a risk of a soft lock, don't worry, I brought backup saves. And worst case scenario, like it's not gonna be something that's gonna prevent us from seeing the end. But any percent can be a little spooky in its potential for soft lock. On the bright side, the soft locks look really cool. So it's really a win-win. You know, I nearly left without getting this dragon, and that would have been sad. That would have been wrong, and it would have been sad. And also, quit to the main menu, because, sure. The reason that it quit to the main menu was because I chose to quit the previous run from inside a level. And so it defaulted to quit instead of to exit. No big deal, we just exit the level. Here we are. We didn't really, you know, lose anything. Just a little foible in the menuing, kind of a quirk of how the game works. And we are going to do this hitbox exploit as well, again, because it's fun and because it's fast. So when the fairy appears at this dragon, Nils, her wing or her wand, maybe, creates this little invisible hitbox in the air, and we'll get Spyro to stand on it so that we can hop over this wall. Nils is the name of the dragon that we're going to get that proxy off of. There we go. Standing on thin air, as you do. One more dragon and we'll be good to leave this world. We won't have to do any of the other stuff that we did in the first run. And again, I'm going to guidebook out because that's a little bit faster. It's going to take us closer to the balloonist. So with our 10 dragons, we'll be able to leave. And we'll see that things are a little bit different for this
Are you ready to go?
balloonist skip. We did it off of Magnus last time, the dragon outside of Ice Cavern. This time we're going to do it off of Titan, because he's the first dragon that we have access to in Peacekeepers. Doing it off of Titan is a lot harder, because the ground in front of him is flat, and so your glide has to be essentially perfect in order to get the fairy storage. So we're going to trick the game into letting us talk to a fairy anywhere that we want. And when you're talking to a fairy, the game thinks that you're controlling Spyro. That's step number 1. Alright, fairy storage off of this is much more challenging. Let's see how we do.
Hi, Spyro. Hi, Spyro.
Nice. Alright, so we have fairy storage. As you can see, I walk out here, bam, talk to the fairy, no problem. I'm not anywhere near her, but I can still talk to her. And that means that I can gain control of Spyro anywhere, because I can talk to her anywhere. So I'm gonna go to this balloonist, and he's gonna be like, you don't have enough gems. And I'm gonna be like, okay, well then take me to Artisans. Just kidding, I'm gaining control of Spyro. And now that I have control of Spyro, I'm gonna charge out of this balloon, and try to make it into this dev tool. Oof, I am so glad that I made that. But it's not over yet. We're trying to go to Nasty Nork's world because he's the final boss. And we're coming in sideways, that's promising. It's trying to load Artisans and Nasty's world at the same time. Thankfully this time it didn't really freak out too much. Oh, there it is. So we'll take a death abuse here to clear the game of trying to take us to Artisan's world, because that was the first place that we asked to go. Plays the intro cutscene. And then if we quit and come back in, we'll be in Nasty's world, the final world of the game. And we're just gonna hop straight into the boss. So by doing this, I believe it's 94% of the game that you skip. And we can only get into Nasty by doing this skip and getting into this world fast enough that the world doesn't load the outside of his portal. Because the outside of his portal is closed and we can't get into it normally. So we have to get in there, you know, before the game catches up and realizes that it hasn't loaded the things that it needs to load. Which means that if I would have failed that balloon skip, I would not have been able to do this. I would have needed to use a backup save. Because you only have the one chance to get into Nasty. Or else the game catches up, and then everything is loaded, and that's bad. So this key is going to unlock the place where Nasty is standing, up here. He's shooting at us, and he has horrible aim. No matter how hard we try, we can't actually, you know, flame Nasty here, and it's actually important not to be too close. He has a really big hitbox around him, and if you run into it and fall into the purple slime, whatever it is, you'll have to start completely over. So it's good not to be, you know, too awful close to him. So we'll flame him once, and that'll get him to move on. And then timing will stop as soon as we do the second flame to Nasty, which is technically the end of the game.
You're toast, Nork.
So now that we've toasted Nork, just a little bit out of curiosity, I'm gonna, you know, check what this final in-game time was just to give you a perspective of how we did. But that was 80 dragons and also any percent. So thank you so much, everybody, for donating to meet that incentive and for your donations in general. 311, that's pretty decent. The world record, I believe, is 259, so we were fairly close considering that I spent a little bit of time to show stuff off, so. Thank you for having me. I hope that you all had fun, and I hope that you all enjoyed Spyro and Morty and just everything. Don't forget to keep donating, and thanks.
I know I did. Big GG, thank you very much. Those 8 minutes were worth the $80, $10 per minute, and it was a whole lot of fun. Okay, follow the runner. We can find you under twitch.tv/SableDragonRook.
Yep.
Perfect. Kuo with the assist, wonderful. And we'll be right back with you with some filament coming up next. Run by Teslafoot. Thank you again, Sable. Have a good time.
Thank you.